fourth Rose Bowl game, a sea of red. Oklahoma is officially crimson, just slightly darker. Running all the way, gets to the edge. Sonny Michel will send the Dogs home to the championship game.
Take a look around. We are here in LA at the Rose Bowl Stadium for OU's game against UCLA. I'm here, Shiloh Sellers, with Sam Brown, Christian Nunley, and William Sule. Guys,
we're here.
We're starstruck to be here right now. Let's be real.
I've been looking at this view for the last hour and a half since we've gotten here. I'm in shock. I've wanted to be here since I was a little kid, and this is a dream come true.
Absolutely.
We've seen so many historic games. Just walking into the stadium, it was like, wow. We saw the scoreboard.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
I mean, we're sitting right underneath it. Geez, we walked on the field. The grass is beautiful. They've got this thing ready to go for tomorrow. It's going to be incredible.
And can we talk about these San Gabriel Mountains behind us? I mean,
know.
what a view. You get to watch football and look at this beautiful, like, it's amazing.
Worth the price of admission for sure. I mean, if this isn't a dream come true for you guys, then I don't know what else you're looking for. Like, this is the granddaddy of them all. This is incredible.
I would do just about anything for one of those houses over there.
Oh,
Those are some nice houses.
Yeah, this is a mecca of college football for a reason. Or one of the meccas of college football for a reason. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Well, last week, the Sooners went up against the South Dakota Coyotes, wiped the floor with them. I mean, in its own right, it was a boring game, but also we got to see a lot of things from the Sooners. What did y'all what stood out to you in the game?
Well, I mean, to me, it was kind of just what we all thought it was going to be, but it was exciting for me to see youth coming to the forefront. Spencer Rattler, 4 for 4, 50 yards and a touchdown. If that doesn't get you excited as a Sooners fan, then I don't know what else you want. I don't know what you're looking for, because that is the future. Spencer Rattler to Austin Stogner, Spencer Rattler to Theo Weiss, Spencer Rattler to Jaden Hazelwood. That is the future of Oklahoma football, and it's here now. And it makes me excited that they could legitimately have come out, started that game against South Dakota, and we would have been just fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, putting up 70 points is can't ever complain about that.
Yeah.
No, I'd said 56-17. But holy cow, I had no idea we'd end up scoring on just about every possession we had the opportunity to. It was really impressive to see the young guys. You talked about it. It was extremely impressive to see Jaden Hazelwood, Theo Weiss, Trajan Bridges all get in the end zone, Spencer Rattler make plays, Ramondre Stephenson, like all the way down the depth chart, so many guys made plays. And we talked about it earlier, how many different guys would make impacts.
Yeah.
But I don't think I really realized how immediate all those guys would make impacts. It was all over the field they were making plays. It was so impressive to see, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what else they've got tomorrow night.
Hey, you said 66. You said a little lower. I went 66.
Yeah.
I was close to the scoring total for Oklahoma, but how about that defense? I mean, after week 1 against Houston, 0 turnovers, Alex Grinch extremely disappointed. And so how did they respond? They respond with a Buki fumble recovery. Buki gets a pick 6 on the opening drive of the second half for South Dakota. And then Jaden Davis in the fourth quarter, another freshman, another young guy, gets an interception of his own. Nearly had 2. I mean, he was unreal as well. And so the defense, I think you're starting to see the progress that they're making. They're starting to build up that confidence, build up that energy. And it's a good thing they're playing a team like UCLA, who's kind of struggling at the moment, because it's another opportunity to kind of gain more confidence. It's going to do a lot of good for them down the stretch.
Yeah.
A fun fact about the Sooners, actually, they have not scored 70 points since I think back in 2007. I don't remember what game that was by, but it's been a minute since they got to that point.
Back in the Sammy B days, huh?
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
And I mean, with how explosive this offense has been in recent years, it's a surprising statistic that they never get to 70 against Kansas or something like that. But incredible how the offense.
And who would have guessed it would have happened with Jalen Hurts under the helm?
I know.
Like with the quarterbacks we've had in the past, we would have thought like maybe we
they're
get
gonna
70
blow it out,
against one of these other teams. But Jalen Hurts walks in, puts up 70 on South Dakota State. I don't think we've played an FCS team as of late in the past.
No, first game against an FCS team since 2012.
Yeah. So.
And it wasn't just Jalen Hurts either. I mean, Tanner Mordecai got some run. And
Yeah,
we
he looked
mentioned
good
Spencer
too.
Rattler. Like Jalen Hurts played maybe 2 quarters and a half. Like it was. The second unit came in and performed very well. I mean, 723 total yards is not anything that you can, like, offensively, where do you, like, obviously there's room for improvement. There were 12 penalties for 96 yards, which when I saw that after the game really surprised me because you didn't think about it. But there were definitely some holding penalties. The offensive line still has a lot to work on. So, like, even though they scored 70 points, there's still room for improvement, which should scare the rest of college football.
I feel like we should be showing Tanner Mordecai a little love too. I mean, we talked about Spencer Rattler, and I would like to point out last week I did call on the spot that Jalen Hertz would probably play a little bit past halftime. Mordecai would get a quarter in. Rattler would get about half a quarter in. But Mordecai, I mean, 6 for 8, 114 yards, 2 TDs.
He did really well.
Looked incredibly sharp in his debut. And we talk about Spencer Rattler as the future. Tanner Mordecai is the future as well. I think he belongs in that conversation. There's a reason that it was I think this quarterback battle between Mordecai and Hertz was more of a battle than last year between Cuyler Murray and Austin Kendall. I really do. I think Mordecai is a gifted passer, and who knows, he could find his way into the bowl next season.
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't know. Spencer Rattler's the ticket seller. He's one of those guys that's gone in.
He's box office.
He's box office. He's got his own Netflix show. It's going to be tough for Tanner Mordecai to really take that spot. But, I mean, he was in a battle with Hurts. So, I mean, he's got every right to be there. He's proven that he can make the plays needed. So,
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see what he's got.
Yeah.
Well, it was this past week we were able to catch up with the Sooners after their game, and here's what they had to say.
On to UCLA, certainly going to be our first road test this year, going out and playing those guys. So excited.
We pride ourselves in playing on the road. We like, going into somebody else's house and, leaving our mark. Also being in the Rose Bowl would be a great venue. So we're excited to go in there and do our thing.
Yeah, playing college football, the Rose Bowl is always going to be a major, just a venue to even be able to play at. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity.
The time difference when you're not going out there for a bowl game, when the time difference really doesn't matter, you got plenty of time in between the game. That is probably the biggest adjustment, one that we'll have to account for.
Just go out there, trying to play ball.
I don't want to overlook it, certainly don't want our staff to, don't want our players to, and I think that can be part of getting ready to play. When you get to go into historic venues like this or go play, non-conference games that don't show up all the time, you're going to remember these. And so you want to go play like you want to be remembered and make sure that it's a positive memory on the back end. So it's part of it for us, and this game gives you way too many cool things to experience to not appreciate it.
Well, they said it. This is a historic place to play.
Yeah.
The Sooners haven't been here since the last time where they lost in the playoffs.
They did.
Kind of walk us through kind of what this game is going to mean for the Sooners coming back here. I'm sure that chip will be on their shoulder.
Sule, you were there at that last game, right?
Yeah.
No, I was not.
Don't forget I said anything.
Well, yeah.
I wish I'd been there, and then I'll simultaneously wish I hadn't. We've got a lot of California Sooners in this group. It's going to be special for them, especially we got a guy we've talked about a lot, Buki Radley House, coming back to LA. It's the Rose Bowl. It means more. It just does. It means more than playing in, no offense to Lawrence, Kansas, but it means more than playing in Lawrence, Kansas. This game is something that I'm sure those guys have circled on their calendars as an exciting time, as we did. I mean,
Yeah, I circled
You
this
know?
on my calendar when football season ended last year.
Right.
I mean, look how blessed we are. We're sitting in the Rose Bowl doing this, so like, just imagine walking out on that field, getting ready to play a football game. I can't imagine how excited they are. But simultaneously, they're playing a team that doesn't really get you that excited. I mean, and not to I mean, we'll talk about UCLA, I'm sure, but like they're a team that they're 0 for 2. They're on the cusp of what could be their 4th straight losing season, which hasn't happened in UCLA history in a long time. A team rebuilding, a team under a lot of pressure to perform, and from what we've seen so far, they just are not capable of doing so. I mean, their leading running back, their running back is a guy who's listed on ESPN as a wide receiver, Demetric Felton. He leads them in rushing yards and receiving yards at less than 100 rushing yards through 2 games. Which, I mean, Ramondre Stevenson had almost that much in one run last weekend. So it's a team that offensively, who, when they hired Chip Kelly, thought they were going to get a boost and have not seen anything like that. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this OU team comes out, because they're at this place, this venue is more, I think, more of the occasion than the team they're playing against, which is a weird kind of dynamic just to see how Lincoln Riley and the coaches handle that.
Yeah, we do, as you said, we do have a lot of Sooners that come from the Golden State of California.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys that will have a lot of family out here, a lot of reasons to play. Ramondre Stevenson is a guy out of Las Vegas that played just 20 miles away from here at JUCO at Syracuse College. So there are a lot of guys here that have a lot of family in this area, a lot of people they're trying to support in this game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how much passion they play with. I think it'll be interesting, and especially against a team against UCLA, similar to South Dakota last week, a tune-up, if we're going to be completely frank.
Sure.
They're not going to – it's not going to be a team that's testing them at the end of the day. It's going to be a team that they're looking to beat and beat down.
Yeah, and listen, as historic as this venue is, it's not going to be jam-packed like it was when Oklahoma played Georgia in the Rose Bowl a few years ago. Yeah. There's probably going to be about 40,000 people here. It's maybe going to be half full. It's not going to be the same atmosphere. Obviously, it's the same stadium. There's just something about playing here that just gets you fired up, like Sule said. I can't imagine the excitement the players must be going through. But like Christian said, this is a tune-up against a UCLA team that is really struggling on offense, has some talent on the defensive side of the ball, but really they can't seem to find the right pieces on offense. Their offensive line is a mess. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has shown not much progress at all, really. Yeah. And like Sule said, their running game is atrocious.
One thing also we haven't spoke on, but it's hot. We have
hot.
a heat wave right now going on.
Yeah.
And one thing
the weather
that
followed us from Oklahoma.
Right. One thing that we've talked about before on the show is the needed depth on defense when it comes to the Sooners. How do you think playing in this heat is going to affect that defense and how well they do?
I mean, it's a good point you bring up, because the 2 games that we've played, like, normally around this time, the Sooners have had that heat game. They've had like an 11 a.m. kickoff in the heat of Norman, Oklahoma. They've had 2 night games. They had 2 night games that were relatively moderate climate for Norman, Oklahoma in September. So this will probably be the hottest game they play. It'll be interesting to see. It'll test the conditioning. I think it'll be a good opportunity for Alex Grinch to see who's ready to be playing in the heat of the moment. Because like they're going to get into some games where against Oklahoma State, against the Texas Techs, against Texas, who we'll talk about later, that they're going to need guys to be at 100% for all 4 quarters. And it'll be interesting to see who's doing that, or if they even test them that way. Because like we said, I think this game will be out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah, this game kicks off at 5 p.m. local time. Yeah. So I'm not sure they'll see most of the dire heat that you see come midday in most of the noon games or 11 o'clock games that typically happen. So I think it will be interesting to see how many guys they rotate in on defense, because it will be hot. Guys will be tired, not really used to this 98-degree stagnant heat.
Right.
It'll be hot, but that's what you're on defense for. Defensive guys are known for rotating, not a lot more than offensive guys would on the other side of the ball. So this is a good depth test to see.
I remember this time last year, myself and the travel team, shout out to the guys, Colin, Madeline, Josh, Lauren, miss you guys. We were out of Ames, Iowa for the Iowa State game, and it was brutally hot. It was an 11 a.m. kickoff, not a 5 o'clock, and you kind of saw that conditioning kind of take a toll on them as the game went on. They got a little tired, let Iowa State get back in the game a little bit there. So I think the offense in particular and the defense really both need to get off to some hot starts, get out early, really punish them, and then you can start to look at your depth and get those players rotated in. They have depth. That's the good thing. They haven't had that in years past on the defensive side of the ball particularly. So getting those players some time in this atmosphere, I think will do nothing but good, really.
Yeah, and I think strength coach Benny Wiley will have these guys ready. I don't think cramping will be an issue.
He had Jalen Hertz ready.
Yeah, seriously, post game.
Right.
So I don't have a doubt in my mind that Benny Wiley will have these guys ready to play. The nutritionist is always on top of her game, so I don't doubt heat will be an issue for this team.
Let's talk a little bit more about defense. You brought it up earlier about the turnovers. Now, in the presser after the game, Lincoln said that it's a domino effect when that starts to happening, both defensive and offensively. What do you guys, what are you expecting when it comes to the defense? Are we expecting more turnovers? Do you think that mentality will carry into this game? What are you expecting?
Oh, it's definitely a snowball effect, no doubt about it. I mean, you start with the Buki fumble recovery, then the Buki interception, then the Jaden Davis interception. You see that energy carry over to the offense as well. It becomes infectious all around. If you look at the sideline after the Buki pick 6, look how many players are celebrating. All the coaches, everyone's got the fist up in the air. Everyone's excited for each other. That's the energy that was missing last year, and it's a breath of fresh air really to watch.
Yeah, the source of camaraderie on this team is impressive. Like Jaden Hazelwood scores a touchdown.
October 4th, 2014 at TCU. That was the last time Oklahoma lost a true road game. Now, in the 2019 season, a new group of Sooners will take the 20-game win streak into sunny California. While UCLA probably won't be OU's toughest road opponent, the first game out of Norman can always be a challenge.
There's all kinds of different adversity playing on the road. It's a totally different mindset. You want to do the same things, but you got to have a different mindset. And we don't want to take for granted. Our groups have been able to do that the last several years. We've been a good road team, but this group's got to find their own way to get to that point.
Last year when these teams met, it ended in a 49-21 Sooner victory. But don't expect tonight's game to be an easy one. The Bruins are 0-2 on the season and looking for revenge at home. As for the Sooners, they've got a young group, most of whom didn't play against UCLA last season. But Coach Riley and the boys know the importance of maintaining an Oklahoma win streak.
It's a huge emphasis when playing on the road. It's something that people think on the outside think, it'd be tough going and playing on the road, but we take pride in it. We love it, so we're really excited about it.
This is the team's last game before Big 12 play, and they're prepared to leave their mark in Cali.
And I don't want to overlook it. Certainly don't want our staff to, don't want our players to. And I think that can be part of getting ready to play. It's, when you get to go into historic venues like this or go play, non-conference games that don't show up all the time, you're going to remember these. And so you want to go play like you want to be remembered and make sure that's a positive memory on the back end.
A victory against UCLA would tie Oklahoma with Alabama for the nation's second longest true road win streak since World War II. The #1 spot still belongs to Bud Wilkinson and the Sooners of the 50s. We'll see if OU can tie it up with 21 and get the first road win of the season. It all goes down tonight at 7 in the Rose Bowl. Back to you, Shiloh.
Welcome back. Okay, I want to take a minute to really dive into the Sooner offense. We saw a whole lot from literally everybody last week. Who are the 2 players that stuck out to you the most, who are adding just something different, that essence that really kind of takes a football team to a college football playoff team? Sule, who do you got?
Well, I'm going to start with Kennedy Brooks. He's a guy, he was my call-out last week. I was disappointed with his performance against Houston, and I called him out. I said, man, if you're going to be a part of this team, we talked about Stephenson a lot. He's a guy waiting in the wings. If you're not going to perform, you got to get with it. So he showed up against South Dakota. 6 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. He was leading this team in rushing yards before Stevenson's 75-yarder. He came out and did what he needed to do, which is exactly what I think this team needs from him. Trey Sermon's going to be the big play guy. Stevenson has also shown big playability. Kenny Brooks has it in him as well, but to me, Kennedy Brooks is the guy that we need to come in, run between the sticks, get yardage when we need it, and when these games get tough, when these games get to the point where we're really needing to establish that run to open up this offense against better defenses that we're going to play this year, he's the guy that we're going to need to highlight so that we can get some good yardage between the sticks. Other than him, I think CeeDee Lamb was a guy that I really thought had a really great game. He, again, was kind of underwhelming in the Houston game, didn't have that many yards, but he came away from South Dakota, 6 receptions, 144 yards, and a touchdown. He's the man. He's the guy this year. I was honestly surprised he wasn't a captain. He's that kind of leader on this team. I think he's the star. He's the guy that's going to be in the NFL pretty soon. So for him to come out, have that big game, cement himself as one of the best receivers in this country, I think was a necessary step for him this year. Because, I mean, we all know his talent. We watch him every game. We've seen what he can do. Against UCLA last year was one of the craziest catches I've ever seen. Unfortunately, his foot didn't get in, supposedly.
Barely. That much.
And he is the leader of this team, and he needs to step up and be that leader, and he did against South Dakota. So I was pretty impressed with the way that he played and the chemistry that him and Jalen Hertz continue to demonstrate.
Yeah, as our very own Barry Orr had mentioned, I think putting CeeDee as a captain would have taken him to a wide Rediva category. I'm not sure it would have been the leader that this team needs that they already have in Kenneth Murray, Creed Humphrey, guys of that nature.
Right.
My two highlighted guys would have to be Ramondre Stevenson to start out.
Yeah.
This guy's been balling. I mean, you said Kennedy. Undoubtedly. You had said that Kennedy Brooks had kind of seemed like he had taken further steps than Ramondre Stevenson had. But I'm going to have to disagree with you. Ramondre Stevenson looks like Marshawn Lynch coming in the game. This guy is big, quick, athletic. It is scary. He's fast. He's shown that he can have breakaway speed on that 75-yard run, which is ridiculously impressive with a guy of his size.
Right.
And I really think the sky's the limit for this guy. He's 12 carries for 145 yards, averaging 12.1 yards per carry, if my math is correct. It's ridiculous to me how many yards this guy can get every single time he touches the ball. Although some may say that it is garbage time yards, it's the opportunities he's given.
He's making most of them.
He's making the most of them, and I'm looking forward to maybe seeing him get some early game reps, maybe tomorrow afternoon. He's out of Las Vegas, heck of a player. His family's going to be here, as I mentioned earlier. I'm hoping he puts on in front of the family crowd.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it was garbage time minutes, but man, I mean, that 75-yard run was still, he outran those guys.
Everybody.
So that was South Dakota's first team defense, which is still like South Dakota's first team defense, but he outran those guys for a guy.
No,
like
he was gone.
He does get a lot of Marshawn Lynch comparisons because he's so big, because he's so strong.
Yeah.
It's great to see him outrunning people as well.
Yeah.
Like another facet of
He can run through you or run past you.
It seems like whenever we lose a running back, we seem to gain two more. It's like
Yes.
It's like the Hydra.
It's like a Hydra running backs.
You cut out one and two more come back. It's ridiculous. But another guy I'd like to highlight is Jalen Hertz. I mean, how could I not? Like,
Obviously.
this guy had come into the scene, and a lot of questions have been asked whether or not he would be able to follow in the footsteps of Cuyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. And holy crap, has he done that and so much more. His numbers are off the charts. It seems like he's the focal point of every single play, every single drive. I mean, as a quarterback, you kind of are expected to be that way.
Yeah.
But he's done so much for this offense. He's able to run the ball efficiently. He's able to make guys miss an open field. He's able to put passes in tight windows, something that was a big question going into the season. And so I think Jalen Hertz has really, really elevated this game to another level. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else he's got for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned when we lose a running back, we seem to get two more. I mean, heck,
We lose
we
a quarterback.
lose a Heisman, not just a quarterback, a Heisman Trophy winner 2 years in a row, and we've got another front runner on our hands. I mean, even if he doesn't win, how incredible is it that Lincoln Riley still keeps producing guys like this that are of that caliber? Well, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt now that Hertz, barring some crazy turn of events, isn't in New York at the least.
No, Lincoln Riley, his ability to make quarterbacks is quite amazing. And I actually called Jalen Hertz out last week, not because I didn't think his play was there, but because I wanted to see that pass game. And boy, he gave it to me. I think he heard my call out.
Yeah.
I'm sure he watches the show.
He's a big fan. Do you not know that?
I'm sure he tuned into OUTV Saturday morning, 8 o'clock.
He was like, man, Shiloh just called me out. I got to show up.
I mean, maybe
He probably
maybe
gets
that's
up
why
early.
he was working out after the game. He heard you called him out. He's like, I hope I did good enough
You
for
know,
Shiloh.
that's
He was
another
probably working
thing.
out while he heard Shiloh call him out, and it was like, oh, let me finish these reps.
Right. That's another thing, though, that I really appreciate about Jalen is he's never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And his level of play is like, man, how could you not go home and be like, yeah, I did that? But like he still is like, no, I could have done better.
He's completing over 85% of his passes
Right.
through 2 games.
It's
and
really amazing.
And to him, they still need to take steps. What, 90% of your passes, 95? You want to go throw a perfect game? Like,
and I think that attitude
what are you
is
gonna do?
infectious. I think that attitude is spreading without the team. And,
absolutely.
And now Lincoln's like, yeah, we still got steps to improve. I mean, we put up 70, but we can do 100 or something like that. Like, the mentality that he's brought over from Alabama is now seeping into this team.
Exactly.
And I'm loving it.
Lincoln Riley, a masterful move there. You can tell that he played for Nick Saban, and that desire to be better has just always been there. But I want to talk about, Sule talked about him a little earlier, but how about his potential successor, Spencer Rattler, who was phenomenal in his one main drive. I mean, 4 for 4, 50 yards and a touchdown. Got a couple runs in. His receivers, which Sule mentioned, found Theo Wees, found Austin Stogner, and then found Trajan Bridges twice, one of them for the touchdown on that slant route on the inside. I mean, everything you saw from high school, you saw on Saturday night. The 5-star prospect, the strong arm, the accurate arm. He's got some athleticism. I think he could improve his speed a little bit, his agility a little bit. He's still got some decent carries and got some positive yardage on those. So there's a little room for him to grow, but man, if that's a glimpse of what we're getting over the next few years, good Lord.
Oh, you're in good
my
shape.
gosh. That's going to be something else. And then the second guy I want to talk about is the guy that Rattler found for the touchdown. Or I'm sorry, Jaden Hazelwood. Jaden Hazelwood's the guy I want to talk about because I don't think anyone really expected him to burst on the way he did. He was kind of an unknown to Norman after he had transferred from Georgia to Oklahoma. And he's come on. First game, 2 receptions for 46 yards. This second one, 3 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. He's currently 8th in the country in yards after catch. He's a big guy at 6'2", 206, not the fastest guy in the world, but he's just got this innate instinct of what to do after the ball is in his hand. The moves that he's making, he's making defenders kind of turn around on their back and then hitting them the other way. I mean, he's a shifty guy for his size, and he's gonna be something. He's gonna be something scary. I mean, those 3 guys, Wees, Bridges, Hazelwood, Rattler thrown in there, put Ramondre Stephenson in the backfield. That's a dangerous offense. If that's what the offense is gonna look like next year, I'll take it. That's fine with me.
There are very few guys I've seen in open space turn a defender around twice. It's D'Anthony Thomas and Barry Sanders. Those are the 2 guys I've seen in highlights. Now, I'm not putting him in that elite category quite yet.
No,
but
don't.
The highlights I've seen.
Anytime you see a defender doing this, it's like that. You know he's got him in the laundry washer there. He's got him in the washer doing spin cycles all the field.
Exactly. And it's important as a receiver. Your main job, once you get the ball in your hands, what can you do with it?
Right.
And Jaden Hazelwood has proven time and time again he can do amazing things with the ball in his hands. I mean, so they're going to try and get him the ball as many opportunities as they can, and it's going to be impressive to see what he's got.
Yeah, I mean, he was the highest rated of the 3 5-stars that we got in this recruiting class, and he has clearly been Lincoln Riley's favorite. He's the one that's getting first-team reps, that's getting the most run out there. I mean, we saw everybody because of how badly they beat South Dakota. The Hazelwood's the one that's getting that first half, first quarter minutes. Like, he's going to be a guy that features heavily in this offense in crunch time, and I think that speaks volumes of both his maturity, like where he's at. Like Lincoln Riley isn't just gonna. We've got plenty of people that can go in that offense and succeed and have incredible success. If you're not ready, he's not gonna put you out there. He clearly has a lot of trust in Hazelwood already to be letting him run with the big boys.
Yeah, and I'm assuming his role is only going to expand from here. I mean, if you look at the numbers, like Hazelwood's putting up better numbers than established guys like Calcaterra, Lee Morris, Nick Basquin. He's already starting to make a bigger impact on games than those guys who have been around for 3+ years. I mean, he's gonna be something special. I really think so.
He reminds me almost of a young C.D. Lamb. I feel like he is kind of being groomed to take over that next position.
They both have a pretty similar build. Hazelwood's a little bit bigger right now than C.D. was his freshman year when he came here. That's actually something C.D. Lamb has emphasized about how Hazelwood and Wees and Bridges were already more developed when they got here than what he was when he got here. So the future's bright, Norman, no doubt about it.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that statement. Well, that is it for now. When we come back, we're actually going to toss to the studio team. It's going to be Heroes and Zeros.
Welcome back to Game Day U. Shiloh, Sam, Christian, and William are out in beautiful California, but we're here back in Norman on the campus of the University of Oklahoma. We've got plenty on the table today, but before we get to any of it, let's take a look back at last week in college football. Here's Parker Thune with your top 5 plays of week 2. Parker.
Thanks, Brooke. We start off in Boulder, Colorado and Nebraska squaring off. Buffaloes need a little magic in the fourth quarter, so how about a little trickery? Steven Montez to K.D. Nixon off the flea flicker, and it goes for 96 yards all the way to the house. Colorado would rally to win 34-31 in overtime. Play number 4, UCF at FAU. Dylan Gabriel scans the field and finds a wide open Adrian Killens, who rambles over just about every inch of the turf all the way back across the field. He bobs and weaves his way to the end zone, 74 yards, and UCF would roll 48-14. BYU and Tennessee, the Cougars looking for a decisive score in overtime, and they get it here, courtesy of a superhuman effort from Tyson Williams. He stays upright and pummels his way across the goal line from 5 yards out. BYU deals Tennessee their second straight loss at Rocky Top, 29-26. Play number 2 is a dandy, Old Dominion and Virginia Tech. Look at this catch from Hezekiah Grimsley. He gets all the way up and comes down with the juggling one-handed snag. What an effort. The Hokies would go on to win 31-17. Not the last time you'll see play number 1 today. LSU and Texas. This one will go down as the throw that launched Joe Burrow's Heisman campaign. 3rd and 17, and he delivers to Justin Jefferson for the nail in the Longhorns' coffin. 61 yards. Look at Burrow evade the Russian fire on the money. The Tigers knock off the Longhorns 45-31. Brooke, Texas may not be back, but you and the gang are. Take it away.
Yes, we are back. Let's kick it off in the studio. I'm here alongside James Myers, Caroline Grace, and Baylor Hurst. Guys, how are you feeling coming out of week 2?
I feel great. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah, it was a really exciting week in the college football landscape. Some great games. We've had a full week to digest it all, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into some, bigger games, bigger opponents, so.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump into it. Let's talk some heroes and zeros that you guys have. Baylor, let's start with you.
All right, so my hero for this week, we're going to keep with the theme of this weekend and head over to Southern California. USC took on the 23rd ranked Stanford, and in that game, it looked like it was going to be a train wreck. JT Daniels goes out last week with a torn ACL. And as you can see, it didn't start out well for the Trojans. A pretty sizable lead gets built up on them. One touchdown after another. And then Keaton Slovis happened. This man threw for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, went 28 for 33 on the back of that, and led his team on a 42-3 run after a second quarter 39-yard touchdown pass that launched that. He went on to average 11.5 yards a throw. He reignited a snuffed USC Trojan season, and I'm really excited to see what they do following that. So I'm very excited to see what they do, and I'm excited about that. Yeah, there's some stats there.
Cool. All right, Baylor, I think that was pretty heroic. Caroline, can you beat it?
All right, well, for my hero, I've got the Michigan defensive line, and here's why. I think a D-line that can read plays is crucial to making a good unit. They created pressure on not only their quarterbacks last week, but also on their running backs. They faced Army, and you know what? Look, there we go. Pressure on the quarterback, pressure on the running back. Oh, and a scoop and score for Michigan. And then up next in overtime, here we go. We got it once again. Pressure on the quarterback. And a fumble to win the game. How about that? Michigan scraped by, but hey, all eyes were on that defense, and they made plays where it mattered. They attacked the quarterback each time, and you know what? I think that Michigan defensive line is a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, yeah. What about you, James?
Well, I got to go with, it's our top play of the week here.
Okay.
It is the big man in Austin, Texas. I'm talking about none other than quarterback Joe Burrow for LSU. That's right. This man made DBU look silly out there. He goes 31 for 39 for 471 yards and 4 touchdowns. His favorite target of the night was Justin Jefferson, who got 3 of the 4 touchdowns. Right there, you can see him on the screen getting one of them. But that wasn't his only target. He also had Terrace Marshall out there racking up 123 yards, and he got a touchdown for himself. Now, when the lights come on, that's when the guys play the best. Right here, 3rd and 17. Joe Burrow in the pocket. He scrambles out, finds Justin Jefferson. He's going to run down the sideline. This is pretty much going to put the nail in the coffin, but it ain't over yet. They go for 2. He comes over here, and they're going to go ahead and convert it, dotting the I. I mean, what can you say? A top 10 matchup. He goes 31-39. I mean, hey. You can't get much better than that in Austin, Texas for this guy.
80% completion rate.
And as I think Parker Thune, our own Parker Thune, hit the nail on the head when he talked about he launched a Heisman campaign this week.
Absolutely. I mean, the man made himself get into national limelight. He's going to be looking pretty good the rest of the season in the media.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how big of a game that was for LSU right there. I mean, they're looking at a championship season right there.
Well, guys, we've seen a lot of great players make a lot of great plays and have great games. What about the zeros that you have?
All right, well, I'm not gonna so much talk about a player, but a team. And keeping in line with our own James Myers, the zero for this weekend has to be the Texas defense. Texas allowed a historic night for LSU, never bending and exclusively breaking. They gave Joe Burrow a chance to average 12 yards a pass, 470 yards total. Were the 2nd most ever in a game by an LSU quarterback, 3rd most completions by an LSU quarterback ever as well. Those 471 passing yards allowed, most yardage allowed since 2008 against Texas Tech, and the 3rd most by an LSU team ever. They allowed 3 receivers to average over 18 yards, and on top of that, allowed 100 yards rushing. Texas seems to be in a very similar place to where OU was last year. Offense clicking on all cylinders, an excellent quarterback, but man, that defense is going to be a major hindrance moving forward. In big moments, you can't expect the Texas defense to show up. They never stopped them even once, and I expect absolutely nothing to change. Texas is terrible.
So Texas is not back.
Texas is not back. Texas is not back at all.
Caroline, what do you think?
Okay, well, I agree that Texas is not back, but for my zeros, I have kickers, period. I cannot stress this enough. They have one job, and there were 3 game-ending mishaps this past weekend. You know, starting with Army. Everyone was anticipating the fall of Michigan, hoping that after week 2, the nation could put them aside, but like always, we're just going to have to wait. And then again with Louisiana Monroe up for the extra point to tie up the game with Florida State. I don't really know what's worse, the fact that Louisiana Monroe missed an extra point or the fact that that's what it took for Florida State to win. I mean, it's just sad at this point. And then we have Nebraska up for a 48-yard field goal to tie the game in overtime. And you know what? You just cannot ever trust a left-footed kicker. Now, I think out of all of these, Army is the most disappointing. I support the troops. I support the triple option. But I do not support kickers missing field goals at the collegiate level, especially in overtime. Or to win the game, my bad.
Okay.
But in overtime as well, for all the other teams that did that, you know, it's just unacceptable.
Ooh, you're a nice girl. That was kind of savage. I'm not going to lie to you.
James, what do you got?
Well, I got to say here, guys, I'm sorry to say it. I have an OU player. I should say it's a former OU player. It's going to be quarterback Austin Kendall, who turned to the Mountaineers this season. That's right, guys. He went 15 of 25 on the day. And take a look at this. Austin, you got to throw to your right. Jersey color here, man. They're going to take that. That's the first interception. And that's not the only errant throw he makes on his 137-yard day, where he only had 1 touchdown. Take a look at this again. Kendall, come on, man. We just talked about it. Wrong jersey color. He could not read a Missouri defense who let Wyoming put up 37 points against them. This one's ugly. It's real ugly. As the Mountaineers fall to Missouri 38-7, guys. Austin Kendall, that's a 0.
Hey, there's a reason he transferred, James. That's all I'm going to say about it. But, you know, this is QBU, and obviously some people don't make the cut, but I guess you can see why, so.
Jeez, I'm glad. You know, the zeros are a little interesting this week. We've got kickers and teams and a player. So, I mean, I think we rounded it out with a lot of interesting, I mean, you've said kickers have one job.
Well, they do, and you know what?
They
I'm
do?
really surprised I haven't had to put Bama on that list yet.
Ooh. You think it's happening soon?
Oh, it's definitely going to happen soon. I mean, there's so many things you can rely on with the Alabama's football team, but kickers have never been one of them.
I mean, it's a tough job. They're on the bench all game. They're not called for, and then all of a sudden the coach goes, "Hey, buddy, I need you to come out here and tie or win the game."
I will say in Arby's defense, they don't just have the best recruiting class, but I mean, if your offense and defense is going to go out there and do all the work for you, the least you can do is make a field
What do you guys think about OU?
Well,
in terms of kickers.
In terms of kickers.
In terms of kickers.
I like
okay.
them.
I was like, whoa, hot topic there. I mean, I don't think we've ever struggled. I don't think we will this season. So I'm looking forward. I don't think really there's going to be any game where it just comes down to a field goal. I mean, especially playing in the Big 12, it's usually, I mean, other than OU Texas last year, I think that was probably the only case where, you know, it really did come down to a field goal. But I mean, when you go against Big 12 defenses, it's never going to be that close of a game. It's going to be you're 3 touchdowns up or you're 3 touchdowns behind. So, but I will say that, you know, if Oklahoma's going to play up against an SEC team, I think it's going to be this year. And so, you know, maybe it will come down to a kicker, especially in the playoffs, because, I mean, those defenses are going to try to shut us down. So,
okay, yeah.
I mean,
guys?
And that concerns me, if I'm honest. We lose Austin Seibert, and we lost Austin Seibert, and so we've got a new kicker in place. He's never been a part of a big moment. So that's a big question moving forward, is how will we do in situations if it does come down to a field goal? Can we trust our kicker?
Yeah. But, once again, I cannot stress this enough. They have one job. We're not asking them to go out there and play for an hour. We're not asking them to go out there and make 7 field goals in a row. Let's be honest, that never happens in the Big 12. So I don't see why we shouldn't put all of our trust in the kicker. I mean, that's what we recruited them for, and especially filling our kicker from last year's position. I mean, Lincoln Riley isn't just going to put somebody in there that we can't depend on. So.
True.
Well,
James,
let's talk about how spoiled we are at OU.
Let's-
Last season, Austin
we can-
Seibert, do
we
you
can talk
know
all
how
show.
many kicks he missed?
Let's hear it.
2. And do you know
My
how many
goodness.
kicks we missed in our first game? 2. I'm just saying, you've got big shoes to fill, and I think the kicker position, it's underrated. It is difficult to go out there to have the weight of the game on your shoulders with a minute left, and then to put a team into the hole and bury them. That's just tough to do.
Okay,
I don't think.
guys, well, we're running out of time, so we're going to kick into the break. But when we return, James, Caroline, and Baylor answer 3 burning questions from across the college football landscape. It's 3 and out. We'll take you all the way from Michigan, Hawaii, to Lubbock, Texas, as Game Day U rolls on. Back here in the Gaylord Hall studios, Brooke Mursky here with James, Caroline, and Baylor, and it's time for 3 and out. Plenty to discuss around the country, so let's kick things off in a very town where the college football playoff trophy resides, Clemson, South Carolina. All right, guys, so is Clemson in? What do you think?
So I'm going to say, as far as the college football playoff, yes, they are in. But let's take a second. I think they will lose a game. And to who other than Mac Brown and the Tar Heels. Now stay with me. I know this is hard to track after last night whenever they got it put on them by Wake Forest. They did launch a comeback towards the end of the game, but you have to remember, during Mac Brown's second stint at North Carolina, this is a new experiment. This is a new idea, and the Tar Heels have shown a lot of room for improvement. Sam Howell is averaging 9 yards a throw. He's playing really good football. The defense is figuring things out, and both running backs are averaging about 5 yards a carry. This new experiment over in North Carolina has a lot of hope moving forward, and I expect them to take down a Clemson team a little bit later in the season that's going to be long-winded. We haven't seen great things from Trevor Lawrence so far. I know it's blasphemy to speak ill of him at all, but if we're honest, he's been average at best against teams that aren't even that good. Who does Clemson play? The best team that they played was A&M, Texas A&M, who has a lot of trouble moving forward. I don't have a lot of faith in Clemson as far as when the big moment comes, and I think North Carolina is going to take them down later in the season.
So you did watch the North Carolina game, right?
I did watch the North Carolina game. I did. My opinion stands, though.
Okay, that's a little bit of a...
Hot take.
Hot take.
They will make the playoffs.
But that's okay because I've got an even hotter take. You see, I don't have Clemson locked into the playoffs.
Okay.
And I don't see them getting beat by North Carolina.
Okay.
They play Syracuse, and the last time that there was a weekend without a ranked matchup was in 2017, and guess what? They lost to Syracuse. Look at any speedy offense that's put up against their defense, and they just run all over them. And you know what? You talk about blasphemy when it comes to talking bad about Trevor Lawrence, but you know what? I call it facts. And so far, Paul Feinbaum has said it best. There's no way that you can make the statement after 1 year that he is the best quarterback. He could be the best, but he just isn't yet. They are going to struggle if ever they run into a speedy defense. So as soon as they hit the SEC, I mean, let's say they do get into the playoffs. I feel like they're going to get shut down. And at this point, Trevor Lawrence has more interceptions than he has touchdowns. His completion rate is 63%, and he's facing a quarterback tonight that only trails him by 3% at 60%. And so, but Syracuse did lose to Maryland, so I mean, I guess we'll just see how it plays out. And I know it's a hot take, but
I like Maryland this year.
I'm liking them too.
A lot.
James, what do you think? Let's make a hot take again. What do you
Well,
what do you have?
Here's my take. Is glue sticky? And does a one-footed duck swim in circles? Is Clemson a lock for the playoffs? The answer is yes. Come on, people. Let's just take a look at how Clemson's playing so far. They went ahead and they took on A&M, who had a top 10 rush defense last year and held Clemson in check a quarter until Trevor Lawrence came and busted it open. They can get you with Trevor's ability. Don't sleep on that. And then if there's nowhere to throw, well, Lynn J. Dixon and Travis Etienne can and will gash you if you leave a hole. And not to mention T. Higgins. My goodness, does this guy have baseball mitts for hands? Because if you throw his ball his way, he's going to catch anything. Look at that body control. And then that all-important Tiger defense may not be as scary as last season, but it is still terrifying. They have the weapons to make it, not to mention a Cupcake Deluxe schedule coming up.
All right. Well, okay, we did question 1. Now question 2. Who is your top pretender that you have this week?
All right, where do I look? Where do I look? Is it this one? Is it this camera? Put it on me. Put it on me. Michigan is an absolute joke.
Woo!
Jim Harbaugh, it's a crime that the man still has a job in college football. Let me tell you something. That guy should be handing out participation trophies at Pee-wee football games with his orange slices. Michigan, as you can see, has the #1 strength of schedule coming up. They probably think that this is going to be some big test and they're going to prove their worth in the college football playoff landscape. I'm here to tell you it's going to expose them. I see possible losses to Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan State, and I see definite losses to Maryland, who will probably take the Big Ten this year, but that's another discussion for another day, and Ohio State. But let's take a moment and talk about this weekend of vacuum. We just saw some plays from it. Army made Michigan look like they were in their own classification, and I don't want to hear this nonsense about how OU did the exact same thing. OU scored basically every time they touched the ball, and that was a question of time of possession. Army was out there making legitimate stops against a top 10 team's recruiting class. Michigan is pathetic. They fall apart in big moments, and they are going to be exposed this year. Jim Harbaugh will finally lose a job that a better person could come in and take. He'll be exposed by Ryan Day. He'll be exposed by 2 or 3 teams. Listen, I don't think the question is whether or not they will make it into the college football playoff. I think the question is whether or not we'll see them in the New Year's 6 bowls, because they probably won't even make that. I have a low opinion. Oh, and we're not even going to talk about today because I'm trying not to take up all the time in this segment about the scrub that is Shea Patterson.
Okay.
Take me off.
Well, I don't think anyone can beat your passion for this topic, Baylor. Caroline, what do you?
Well,
what
I
are
think you
between
may
your
be
mind?
happy to know that I'm staying in the Big Ten with my pretender too, and that is Ohio State. And you know what? You shouldn't be shocked by this. To me, they've had to depend on other teams making mistakes to make them look good. And their postseason play, once again, like it does every year, is going to come down to the Michigan game. And like Baylor said, I don't think Michigan is an accurate depiction on whether or not they're good. And now let's talk about their quarterback, Justin Fields. He transferred. He entered the transfer portal as a freshman. And you know what that tells me? That tells me he's not dependent. And you know what he is dependent on, though? His running backs. At some point, you're going to have to get the kid out of the backfield and let him start shooting some balls. They literally designed this offense so that he couldn't run. And that, to me, you can't depend on a quarterback like that, James.
Ooh, I feel like I need some water right now.
I just disagree so much, Caroline. We know as much about not JT Daniels, rather, or Justin Fields, as we did about Dwayne Haskins last year, whenever he showed up. And what did he do? I think it's way too early to make a judgment on a quarterback like that.
But that's my point. You put him in an atmosphere where he's gonna have to make crucial plays. I don't think he can get the job done, and that's just my opinion on that. If he couldn't obviously get the job done at Georgia, obviously he's not gonna get the job done at Ohio State.
James?
Y'all, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We're hating on the Big Ten over here, but I'm hating on the SEC. My pretender comes from down south. It is going to be Auburn University. That's right, guys. I do not buy into Bo Nix. In his first game, he completes less than half of his passes, and his receivers, they're not even catching the passes that do get to them. In college, your quarterback is your team, and I don't think that he's very up to snuff. Check out this easy completion over the middle. He can't even get that. Now, his short game is weak. Hey, most golfers and most quarterbacks can't have a weak short game, but how about that deep game? Well, it's also not that hot either. Look at that, overthrowing receivers when he had all the time in the world in the pocket. Then defensively, they're not looking too steamy. Leaving that coverage right there, having that man wide open. They're not getting to the quarterback fast enough. And I just think, guys, looking at it offensively, they're not going to be able to carry it with Bo Nix. And defensively, they have weak coverage, and their defensive line is not going to be able to get in there. I think a good SEC team comes in and absolutely torches Auburn.
Okay, so James, I'm just going to assume that your head's been stuck in the Big 12 for a long time, because I want to remind you that Bo Nix was playing high school football this time last year. High school football, he led his team to 2 state championships. Now, not only that, you made the statement that in the SEC, your quarterback is your team, but that's false. Your defense is your team, and they have one of the best defensive line units in the country. That defensive line is going to face LSU, Georgia, Alabama, and they have the ability to shut down all those fast-tempo offenses that we've seen so far. Not to mention, they're going to play at Jordan-Hare for Bama and Georgia. That's crucial. Those are both going to be huge games. And, you know, I see where you're getting at with the quarterback play. I understand that. But when you're that good around your quarterback, I think when it comes down to it, it's not really going to matter. You say Bo Nix can't throw a deep ball. Well, I watched him do it against Oregon. So
I have to side with you, James, for a couple reasons. The main reason is that, first of all, we do have a true freshman quarterback in Bo Nix. While I am a Bo Nix apologist, I do believe in him. I think the true freshman thing is going to come out against more experienced, better SEC teams. When we talk about how stacked their defensive line is, we talked about how solid they are on all sides of the ball. But here's the thing: they're still little brother to teams like Georgia, to teams like Bama. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just worse versions of the better teams in the SEC, and they're not a pretender because they're not good. They're a pretender because they're surrounded by so much talent.
And let's go on to question 3 before we end the segment here. What is your unranked team to watch?
Hawaii. Hawaii is straight up balling, man. The Rainbow Warriors have a lethal passing attack with an insanely talented wide receiver core. And they've proven that they're clutch with an 83% fourth down conversion rate, averaging 541 yards a game and 38 points per game. And let's talk about those receivers I mentioned. All but James Phillips are juniors and seniors. We've got an experienced, solid receiver core. 5 of them are averaging over 12 yards per catch. Mind you, James Phillips has only caught 1 pass. And watch out for the name JoJo Ward. That man has 259 yards on just 14 catches. At only 5'9", our short king has cuts in the hands. Be on the lookout for that man, and be on the lookout for Hawaii for the rest of the season. I think that they might have filmed that footage with a GoPro.
That's what I heard too. Something about not allowing certain camera equipment into Hawaii because of environmental reasons.
Save the turtles.
Save the turtles. Caroline, who is your unranked team to watch?
So I'm going to keep it in the Big 12, and I'm going to go with Texas Tech. Now, the reason for that is that they're 2-0, and they've been beating their opponents by a long shot. You see, LSU already shut out Texas last week, so I could see them being a contender for the Big 12 championship. I don't think one loss against OU on the road is going to be that big of a deal. And if you'll see here, they've got a speedy offense. I mean, look at that. It's first down after first down. But not only that, they've also got a speedy defense. I mean, they're shutting down any run game that they've got so far. And, you know, I think that they definitely have the potential to be ranked. And as long as they keep beating their opponents, they're going to be a contender for the Big 12 for sure.
Okay. James, now on to you.
Guys, I gotta say, let me get the camera here. I just need to make a statement.
Oh.
Rank Oklahoma State, you cowards that are ranking teams. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you. Let's see this right now. Sanders right now in the backfield at quarterback, he only has 11 incompletions on the year. 6 touchdowns, 453 yards, and look at Tylan Wallace. That speed, that breakaway speed, he's averaging 27.2 yards a carry. He's nasty. And then Chuba Hubbard, explosive out of that backfield. He already is at 265 yards on the season, averaging about 8 yards a carry. And this defense, whoop, that's mine. I'm taking that to the house. Thank you very much, McNeese State. And that's not the only one. Their speed gets them 2 picks in this game. I think they're going to be great offensively. I think that defense is going to be fast, loose, and ooh, not fun to play against.
Did you say 27 yards a catch?
A catch.
Okay, so what are you thinking
That's
for Bedlam? What's your score prediction there, Mr. Oklahoma State?
I think every year that Oklahoma State is going to go ahead and play well and lose to Oklahoma. There's no way that they're going to come and beat Oklahoma.
I mean, they put up a challenge last year, so are you expecting them to do that again this year? And we play them at their home field.
I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be offensive. It's going to be explosive. But I think OU just has the better weapons. That's not saying Oklahoma State doesn't have good weapons, but definitely to me, I think OU has a little bit of an advantage here. And I think, honestly, oddly enough, it's going to come down to the defense. Who's going to make one stop in that game in order to pull out that victory?
27 yards a catch. 27 yards a catch. That's a football field every 4 plays.
He said, pinch
Insane,
me, I'm
insane.
dreaming. No, but I mean, with Oklahoma's speed D coming out, I see us shutting down Oklahoma State, to be honest. So.
Ooh, that's a big take there of all of those weapons Oklahoma State's got.
I agree,
Right.
but I'm going to take it.
Well, we'll take a timeout here at the desk. We're out of time for hour 1 of Game Day U, but when we come back, we'll send you back out to the City of Angels where Shiloh, Sam, Christian, and William have lots more college football coverage as we wind down to kick off at the Rose Bowl. Stay with us.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Shiloh Sellers along with Sam Brown, Christian Unley, and William Sule. Well, now we've talked a little bit about the Sooners. Let's move out and talk about the Big 12 as a whole. A lot happening. What kind of game stood out to you this past week?
I mean, I guess I'll start with the game of the week for the nation, not just the Big 12.
Right.
Texas LSU. It was a really fun game to watch. For those of the Sooner fans that were in the stadium, didn't get to watch a whole bunch of it.
We didn't get to see it.
But it was an incredible back and forth game. But LSU obviously came out on top. Texas looked the part of a team that wanted to be there, was ready to compete, but just couldn't finish it off. I mean, we've been the conversation nationally has been all year, is Texas back? Is Texas back? I mean, it's been going on for 5 years now. They think they are. I would disagree. I mean, I think that they are still quite a few steps away. Sam Ehlinger had a good game statistically, 31 of 47, 401 for 4 TDs. No INTs is one of his big points of emphasis. Like, he's a guy he takes very good care of the football. They were outclassed by Joe Burrow and LSU. I mean, an LSU team that has struggled offensively in the past has looked the part this year. It looked ready to be a contender in that SEC West. Joe Burrow, 471 yards, 4 TDs, an INT on a tip ball at the line of scrimmage. It wasn't really his fault, but he looked really. He could. I mean, he could be taller. It could be Trevor Lawrence. But I mean, LSU looked great offensively. They tore Texas to shreds. I mean, neither of these teams really looked like they had a claim to be DBU because both of them gave up 400-plus passing yards. I just think it was a great game of college football, one of the best I've seen so far this year. And Texas, while they looked good and they're going to be a contender in the Big 12 undoubtedly this year. It'll be interesting to see how they can bounce back from this.
Yeah.
But they don't really have running back depth right now. We talked about OU having incredible running back depth. They don't have that. They're moving quarterbacks over to running back. They played a guy who was a third-string quarterback 2 weeks ago at running back. He got run. They got a guy who's moving from linebacker to running back. Like, that is a problem that you wouldn't think a blue blood Texas program would have in getting guys to be able to run the ball. A loss to an LSU doesn't end Texas's season by any means, but there were signs of weakness that will need to be addressed quickly because they play Oklahoma State in 2 weeks, a team that everyone's sleeping on, but I am very highly on. It's in Austin, which will be. I'm telling you, man.
Just gave me the look.
I mean, I don't know if anybody's talking about Oklahoma State, but people need to be talking about Oklahoma State. That offense is gonna be explosive, and I would be, if I'm a Longhorn fan, shaking in my
cowboy boots.
shaking in my cowboy boots.
McConaughey
Snakeskin, Matthew McConaughey brand. I don't even know if I feel like he should have a brand.
He probably does.
McConaughey. I feel like he probably does, but like I would be shaking in my boots going into that game, especially if they can't keep up offensively. Yeah. Which, I mean, they went toe for toe with LSU offensively, but you don't normally think of LSU as a historically great offensive team. So it'll be interesting to see how Texas is able to bounce back.
I think, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I think that we talked about this earlier. I think that if Joe Burrow hadn't won out Sam Ehlinger, he would be potentially right in that mix of the Heisman race with Jalen Hertz, with Tua, with Trevor Lawrence. Did you? I mean, that's you see the
good.
You see the improvement he's made as a passer. He's always been a good runner, and we talked about this. But he's developed so much as a passer of the football. Yeah. It's incredible. That's this junior breakout year. I think this is it. He's gonna go off. I mean, you saw it against a really stout LSU defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as high on him as clearly you are, but I agree with you that I think if Texas pulls this game out, he's in the Heisman race solely because I think the hype is there. Like, whether or not he's actually that good of a quarterback,
we'll have to see.
Whether or not Texas is actually that good of a team, we'll find out as the season progresses, but this is the perennial story with Texas. We come into the year, oh my gosh, Texas, they had a top 5 recruiting class. They're going to be so good. Tom Herman, blah. And, like, the substance just isn't there for me. It's just not. And, like the Red River rivalry is going to be a game that is contentious every year. Like, even when they were bad, they managed to beat Baker Mayfield in that game. Like, it's going to be a fun one to watch. Everyone's going to want to tune into that in a couple weeks. But I just don't. I am not as high on Sam Ehlinger as I think the rest of the nation is. I just don't. I wouldn't trust him. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there in the country that I would trust to lead my team down late in the fourth quarter on a last-second touchdown. Like, we need that point. I don't trust him to make those throws. I just don't.
I mean, he did it against Oklahoma last year.
That's not a conversation Sooner fans are ready to have.
No, I know that.
It really is a backbreaker early on to have Texas. You get down to the red zone twice and don't come up with any points. That hurts. And you're going to lose by 2 touchdowns. You can't have that happen at any point, especially in one of those top 10 matchups like they had. But my Big 12 team is going to be West Virginia. I had expected them to cover the spread in a game against Missouri, and
that's never a good day.
I was like, you know what? They might have come out week 1 kind of flat-footed, but I don't think this team is as bad as it may seem they are.
I don't know. I think it's there.
I'm wrong. Listen, a lot of things went wrong for this team, and it is unfortunate. And early on, they had so many mistakes. They had a tip ball, go for an interception. An overthrow by Austin Kendall, a slight one, go for an interception. It was just seemed like everything that could go wrong for this team did. Missed field goal, still have a goose egg, go down 17-0. Kelly Bryant, Missouri, take the lead 24-0. I don't think this team is as bad as they might.
You're gonna
listen.
die on that hill?
I'm telling you, they've got skill guys that can make plays. Some of the bad things that happen to this team are just pure unfortunate. Like,
shouldn't have happened.
It's not saying it shouldn't happen because it did, but it's like I just don't think they are as bad as like last week's score might have.
You still don't think they're as bad?
I still don't think that. I mean,
Will it take a week 3 to convince you?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they play NC State, a team that's 2-0. We'll really see. Listen, I don't doubt.
Your L's backwards.
I don't doubt that they're going to lose this game.
You get the point.
But I really don't think they're as hideous as they looked last week. By golly, they look.
I mean, sorry, go
we'll
ahead.
see. No, I mean, I don't really have much else to say.
They're just bad.
They're just bad, but like I don't think they're. Last week was like I turned into the game. They're down 3 scores with no points, and I was like, oh my God, there's like 6 minutes left in the first quarter. Like, this is hideous.
It got ugly quickly.
But yeah, the thing is, you watch the game and it's like, oh, I can see that. Like, if Texas, they get down to the 4th and goal. Say LSU goes down, scores a touchdown, 7-0. They get back down to the end zone, don't score a touchdown like they did. The LSU goes down, gets a touchdown, 14-0. West Virginia doesn't have the kind of stability that Texas has to come back in a game where they go down 14 points, go down 17 points, and come back. Once they went down, it seemed like they had just kind of given up. They had quit the game. It's just they're just not as fortuitous and have as much gumption as a lot of the other teams.
Gumption. That's a word right there.
So
I like both of those words.
When they go down, they really are out and dejected.
There's gonna be some growing pains with Neil Brown as their new head coach. When you lose your 5 best offensive players and your 4 best defensive players in one offseason, you've got a lot of talent to replace. You've also got a lot of leadership to replace. Austin Kendall came in as a transfer quarterback. Obviously, he won that job, but we don't know how good of a leader he is on that team. And when you go out on the football field and you get smacked by Kelly Bryant and Missouri, it's never going to look good.
Right.
Nah. It did not.
A Kelly Bryant and Missouri team that lost the week before, who were probably hungry
to
for
Wyoming.
A win. I mean, to Wyoming, but they came out with it. I mean, they had something to prove. This wasn't a game where Missouri came in as like a clear favorite. I mean, they were the favorite. But
you don't think that West Virginia didn't have anything to prove there? I mean, they almost lost to an FCS team the week before.
They definitely had something to prove, but when it seems like everything doesn't go your way early on and you go down to a lead, it seems like you've got a mountain to climb. Yeah. And I think that's where they were. They were sitting there at the bottom of the Seine, I can't remember, Seine, the mountain range right behind us. They were sitting down
San Gabriel.
They were sitting there looking at the bottom of the San Gabriel mountain range like, how are we going to climb this mountain? And I think that's when they're
trying to get to that house on the top of the hill.
Yeah, seriously.
And they're like, man, we're never going to get up there. I want to talk about this team. I talked about them at the start of the season as my potential sleeper. The Baylor Bears are really starting to impress me for the first few weeks. Yes, I know it's SFA, Stephen F. Austin. Yes, I know it was UT San Antonio. Yeah, Lumberjacks. There we go. Axum Jacks. Look, they're outscoring their opponents 119 to 31 through their first 2 games. And this is a very balanced offense for the Baylor Bears. 11 different players have scored touchdowns in their first 2 games. Charlie Brewer hasn't had to do too much yet, but he's still got 7 total touchdowns, over 360 yards passing through the 2 games. Matt Rule said at Big 12 Media Days, we had to throw a lot of guys in there after he took over because of the lack of players because of the transfer ban and the race scandal and all that stuff. And those players weren't necessarily ready to play in that position, in that atmosphere, but they are now. And you're starting to see those dividends pay off. Clay Johnston looks really good. Blake Lynch, their defensive end, hasn't lost a beat. This team has 6 sacks and 13 tackles for loss in 2 games. And like I said, if you look at that schedule, they host Oklahoma, they host Texas, they host Iowa State. Those are arguably the 3 best teams in the Big 12. They're going to have their shot at home with all 3 of them. That student section is sort of electric. It's a good atmosphere to be in the McLean Stadium. So I think if they could pull off 1 or 2 of those wins at home over those 3 teams, they're going to be right in the mix to be maybe the 3rd or 4th best team in the conference. They're looking good so far. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. It's early on, but we'll see. I really do like what's coming out of that Rule squad.
Yeah, they have a lot of returning talent. Denzel Mims scored 3 touchdowns in the first half against UTSA. And Tristan Ebner is a shifty guy at running back. And so
they're definitely in a state of rebuild, and maybe this season could be that season for them.
Yeah.
However, that's really all the time we have right now for this block. But when we come back, we're going to toss it over to the studio, and they're going to give you the update of Sooners past. We'll be right back.
Final predictions coming up from our team out in Los Angeles in about 15 minutes. But right now, we are back in the Gaylord Hall studios Brooke Mirsky, James Myers, Caroline Grace, Baylor Hurst. Now, guys, let's shift our focus to the NFL for a second. Several former Sooners had standout performances on Sunday. Who impressed you most? Let's get it started with you, Baylor.
All right, look, while other positions are sexy and all that, the best right tackle in the NFL continues his reign of dominance. And I'm talking about a guy named Lane Johnson. Listen, this team rises and falls on the back of Lane Johnson. Check him out right there. Oh, by the way, look at that stat. 74 plays, 0 penalties, and 0 sacks allowed. That's a perfect game. It's slowed down right there. You'll see him at the top of your screen, number 65, holding him off just long enough for Carson Wentz to get his throw off. And he does it again on this play with tight end Zach Ertz that led to yet another touchdown. We're about to pop it back up for you right there. You can see him going at it once again, just in the nick of time, gets it off. Man, there are a few people that play a position as well as Lane Johnson. He might be the best in the world, maybe best by the end of his career. He'll probably be the best ever to play the position of right tackle. The team rises and falls with Lane Johnson, and when he's off the field, he's missed dearly. It reminds me of a couple years back when he had his suspension. The Eagles fell apart. While other positions are sexy, I'm sure that we'll talk about, I'm not going to steal the names, but some great flashy performances. Man, there's something to be said about consistent 74 snaps with no mistakes.
Caroline?
Well, I think it's safe to say that it is rookie season here at OU, but I'm the most impressed with Marquise Hollywood Brown. It's not every day that you make 2 touchdowns in your NFL debut. What do you say? Right? He had 2 deep passes that he ran in the end zone for touchdowns. Look at that. Boom! And he keeps on going. No one can touch him, but that's just Hollywood fashion. It's no surprise to us here at Oklahoma. And another one, and it goes up. Look, he's looking, and boom, another perfect play. I mean, just look at his size, y'all. He outruns anybody that he's put up against. This kid's got talent, and as long as he stays out of his cousin Antonio Brown's drama, he's got a great career ahead.
I loved watching him at OU, and it's amazing to see him in the NFL.
It is, and you know, that kid just has an amazing story, and I think that says a lot, especially seeing him in the NFL. I mean, he was a first-round pick, 25th at that. But I don't think anyone really expected him to just explode that first game of the season. So I think it says a lot about what he did during the offseason and what he's been working with the Ravens on. And so, I mean, I just can't wait to see this kid explode even more.
Marquise is so fast. Hollywood Brown has 3 speeds, 2 fast, Mach 3, and faster than a speeding bullet.
Yeah, he is.
Mach 3 is faster than a speeding bullet. My bad. But he is so, I mean, I don't know if you saw on that last play, the last play that Caroline had queued up, he looked like he was jogging when he caught the ball and then turned it up, and there wasn't a chance. The guy's insane.
I think it's safe to say that good things come in small packages, right?
That's what I like to hear. And I think, you know, speed kills. And I'm going to go ahead, my Sooner in the NFL, actually, it's going to be the man who used to throw the ball to Hollywood Brown. I'm talking none other than Cuyler Murray, the former Heisman winner from OU. He had a slow first half, I'm not going to lie, but he rallies the troops for a monster fourth quarter 18-point comeback. Just doing some Cuyler things, hitting Johnson deep over the middle there, and right here he's going to go ahead and hit Bird near the sideline. Hey, no one's open downfield? No problem. Let me use my legs and go ahead and get those yards. He's going to use that speed, getting out of the pocket and getting a few things going. And then at the end, down by 8 points, he's going to go ahead. Who else would he hit? Larry Fitzgerald on the sideline. That game's going to go ahead and end 27-27 in overtime. But guys, I think that was a game that was in the jaws of defeat that he had to go ahead and rip out just to get that tie. I'm going to go ahead and say that's quite a performance for me.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald was playing when they had leather helmets, I feel like.
Well, guys, let's bring it back to college, and let's specifically talk SEC. So in the SEC conference, what do you think it's going to look like this year?
So the SEC conference, ask that question again. I didn't hear you.
How do you think it's going to go this year? What teams do you see? Tell me about it.
So I
could talk all day.
Yeah, I see. I mean, really great teams facing off against each other. In the future, we have some great matchups, stuff like LSU Auburn. We've got Auburn Bama at some point. LSU Bama.
Auburn Georgia.
What game are you looking forward to?
I think more than anything, I'm looking forward to November 9th, LSU and Bama. So I think that both of these teams are going to be undefeated when they face off. The week before that, LSU has a big test in Auburn. I think that Bo Nix while I do believe in him, he is a freshman quarterback, and at the end of the day, experience is important. And we see Joe Burrow balling. So you're going to see two big quarterbacks face off November 9th at LSU and Bama. I think both teams will be undefeated. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot for sure, as it's so late in the season. I have to think that whoever loses that game might not even make it to the SEC championship, as it's so late, or it'll be a rematch. This is going to be a really big deal, but what I'm most curious about, I know that the defenses are going to show up. I know D-lines are going to play great. I know that the coaching is going to go great. What I'm curious about is what we see from the quarterbacks. The last time we saw Tua in a big game, he didn't play so hot. And Joe Burrow has just exploded onto the scene. Now, mind you, I'm going to pump the brakes. I'm not going to say that Tua's fallen apart or anything. I think he might be the most talented quarterback in college football. But Joe Burrow came out of nowhere, and I'm curious to see how he does moving forward. I expect a big game. I expect it to be higher scoring than most SEC matchups, and I expect a college football playoff berth to be on the line.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you picked that game specifically for two reasons. The first reason being, we need to bring more attention to this LSU offense if there isn't already. This offense is specifically designed so that Joe Burrow can excel. And not only excel, but explode at that. And also, I think we're kind of forgetting that, let's say Bama and LSU both are undefeated at this point. Bama can still get in with one loss. And we've seen that happen before. But the question is, do you think they'll put LSU in with one loss against undefeated Bama?
I struggle. I think that that's actually on the back of their offense, kind of like what you were talking about, their offense's performance. This is the first time in a long time that they aren't doing their traditional put two tight ends and run the ball up the middle offense that they've been running since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. And I think it's based predominantly on the way that offense performs moving forward.
So, Caroline, what game are you looking forward to seeing?
So I'm going to stick with LSU, but I'm going to go LSU Auburn, and here's why. LSU doesn't really have any more teams that are going to prepare them for a good defense like Auburn. I mean, I know that you've argued about this, James, but Bo Nix can make that play. I guess I could say that I'm really looking forward to Week 8 because, to me, I feel like that's the matchup that's going to decide who goes to the SEC championship. And here's why. I don't think Alabama is looking like the just phenomenal team that we've seen in the past. And not to say they're not good. That's not what I'm saying at all. But Auburn's facing Alabama and Georgia at home. They're facing Texas A&M on the road. If they're going to beat Texas A&M at College Station, they could be looking at a championship season. And I also think that Auburn's the only defense that LSU is going to run into that can shut down Joe Burrow, especially because right now the LSU offense is something that we've never seen before. These teams are taking it by surprise. They're not really sure what to do with it. And to be honest, the Texas's defense is the last team in the country I ever expected to put up anything against his offense. But you put in, October 26th, Week 8, you got some time to look more into that offense. You've got some time to design maybe something that can shut that down. And although, Auburn has the schedule to prepare them for that. And so I can see Gus Malzahn going in and being, he's going to face LSU at Death Valley, which is a huge game, and that is a huge factor. But I think that they're really going to take the time to consider what it's going to take to shut down Joe Burrow.
Yeah. James, what do you think?
Here's my thing, real quick. We talked about for a couple seconds there that quarterbacks, at least to me, I said it earlier, are your team in college football. And Caroline said in the SEC it's the running back. But Baylor and Caroline just said that it's going to be a matchup of quarterbacks here.
Hold up. I did not say it's your running back. I said it's your defense.
Oh, defense. My apologies.
And therefore, Auburn's defense is going to have to shut down Joe Burrow.
But I think the problem here is I don't think that Bo Nix has enough firepower to defeat that LSU defense.
Okay, but you need to look at the firepower that he has around him. And I'm not trying to defend Auburn in any way because I think that LSU is going to be one of those SEC contenders. But the thing is that Alabama can get in with one loss. Auburn can't. So they have to win that game.
I guess fair enough.
But I yield. On to the next.
Let me go ahead. I'm going to give you guys my SEC game to watch. It's actually going to be November 2nd, and it's about two teams we haven't talked about here. It's going to be Florida and Georgia. I think this game could be a spoiler alert. Florida, they're not looking exactly hot right now, but they can absolutely burn you. After dumping that pass off right there, bad tackling, that's going to lead to some mistakes, leading to a 66-yard touchdown. But Florida's got to watch those mistakes because silly turnovers may work against Miami, and you may not get burned too bad, but when you play a good SEC team like Georgia here, you're going to get absolutely hurt. Look at Jake Fromm from the pocket, deep ball on the run, dot. Gets them right there, and not only that, Georgia's got some big defense to play against. So I think this is going to be a game to watch. Florida has the chance to play spoiler, but at the end of the day, it's going to be difficult for them to do that.
You know, James, you're all talk about quarterbacks that can execute. So I want to know what it is you think that Felipe Franks has that all these other quarterbacks that you're saying can't execute have. Because I think, quite honestly, this game is not going to be a matchup. Georgia's going to run up and down the field all over Florida's defense, and their offense doesn't have anything that can back them up. It's going to be a blowout.
Well, what you're not considering is Felipe Franks will probably lose his starting job if he continues this current trajectory.
Okay.
So we might see a new quarterback November 2nd.
Well, then we're seeing a new quarterback, and that in itself is just a bad situation to be playing the first time with a new quarterback against Georgia. So.
Wait, so playing with a new quarterback's a bad situation. So Auburn, with their new quarterback, are they in a bad situation now, Caroline?
We're talking about November, not, he just beat Oregon as a true freshman.
I'm just saying, I think it's going to be a game. It's in Florida. I think they have a chance to play spoiler because, hey, look at Georgia. Who are they facing all year? They will fall asleep on a Florida team that right now the media is tearing apart. And I think the biggest problem with that is you sleep on a good team in the SEC or you sleep on any SEC team and you will get torched.
Well, are they a good team?
I think they have the potential to be it. I think that chip on their shoulder is going to be growing. No one is giving them the benefit of the doubt.
No, you can't back up Florida's getting roasted by the media because they're going on the media saying, we have something to play for. Well, this is going to be the best Florida team you've seen in years. And then you saw how they played against Miami.
If that's the only game you've got, actually, let me say this. OU Texas every single year, a rivalry game is a toss-up. It doesn't matter who's ranked. It doesn't matter what's going on. That is a game that anyone can win. Florida-Miami, that's also a little bit of a rivalry. It's in state. That game is a toss-up. It doesn't matter who is playing in that game. It is hatred. It is who wants to ball the most, who wants to win the most. I think that game should be ruled out as the argument there.
But when you have a turnover almost every single drive, there's a problem.
And OU Texas
and you can't do that against an SEC defense.
In OU Texas, the craziness comes from first of all the talent of the players, and second of all, just circumstantial. The Miami-Florida game was just one stupid decision after another, one boneheaded move after another. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Everything was bad. It wasn't a question of random circumstance or the spirit of the moment or whatever we call that in college football. It was two teams being poorly coached and poorly executing. And that's why I don't believe it. And Felipe Franks, I put him on the same level as Shea Patterson. Scrub.
That says a lot, you guys.
Scrub.
Anybody he compares to Michigan is just down in the
One
dumps.
good thing came from Michigan, and it was the greatest football player who ever lived. But that's another discussion for another day.
I gotta say this. It is the first game of the season for them. There's gonna be mistakes. There's no preseason. There's no nothing like that.
Okay, but
and you're going into a rivalry game on the first game.
Georgia is at the first game of their season. Look how good Georgia is right now in compared to Florida.
Did they play a rivalry in their first game?
But you don't think that Georgia's just gonna get better as the season goes on?
I think both teams are gonna get better, but you're not allowing the chance for Florida to match Georgia.
Okay, we can add this discussion into the break, but we're going to send you out to California one last time. When we return, that's it for us in the studio. You'll hear from Shiloh and the gang, and they'll make their picks and their matchup with the Sooners. We'll be back. This is Game Day U.
Welcome back, guys. I'm Shiloh Sellers, next to Sam Brown, Christian Unley, and William Sule. It's going to be the last block with us, which, you know what that means. It's time for call-outs, it's time for score predictions, and final words. Sule, what is your final word?
My final word is exercise, as in exercise your demons.
Oh.
Well, we mentioned it earlier in the
that
show.
got dark fast.
Just bear with me, I'll explain it.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier in the show, where the last time that this team was in the Rose Bowl was in one of the best games in college football that year against Georgia. Did not turn out the way the Sooners wanted it to. Come into this stadium and dominate. Exercise those demons. Get the ball in the end zone, score, win, just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
To get that demon, to get that monkey off your back you can't have the last time you played in the stadium be an L. You got to come in with a win. And I'm not worried about the Sooners in this game. We're going to talk about score in a little bit. That'll clearly show that none of us are that worried. But got to come in here, exercise those demons, come into the Rose Bowl, come out a victor.
Yeah, I don't think scoring is going to be an issue for this team.
No, not today.
Excuse me. They'll be just fine getting in the end zone. But as you talked about on SportsPad, Monday night, 7:30 on Fox Sports.
Check us out.
Be sure to check us out. You talked about the defense. you talked about the defense's mentality.
Yep.
And I think that has leaked throughout the entire squad. I think they've got a certain swagger, which is my word. They've got a certain swagger that teeters between cockiness and humility that really lets them elevate their play to a whole other level, and it drives them to kind of keep pursuing further and keep getting better as an entire team, offense and defense. So keep the swagger going and beat UCLA in California.
Yeah, it's crazy that the defense is able to kind of, like you said, have the confidence that they can make those plays, but to have the humility to show that, to know that they need to improve. I think is really incredible. My final word is going to relate a little bit to what Sule said. My final word is going to be focus. And what I mean by that is, obviously, like Sule said, the last time the Sooners were here in the Rose Bowl, things did obviously not go the way that Sooner fans wanted to and Sooner players wanted to. And so as a result, I think there's going to be a little bit of an extra excitement to be in this atmosphere, like there always is, really. But at the same time, this team needs to have a certain focus about them. They can't really take UCLA for granted
100%.
because Chip Kelly is still Chip Kelly. Right. We know that. This team may not be the team that UCLA fans were hoping for, but it's Chip Kelly. So we can't exactly just roll over, kind of take them not seriously at all.
Right.
Stay focused, eyes on the prize. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Let's get out of here with a win.
Well, my final word is going to be continue. I think that I really loved, first of all, what I saw last week, the depth, the passability with Jalen Hertz. I think the turnovers with defense, they need to continue to show their strength. I think with Texas losing this past week, some people are going to start being questionable about the Sooners' playoff ability. But I think that if they continue their level of play that they have going right now, playoffs aren't going to be an issue because numbers talk. Yeah. And regardless who you play, if you're wiping the floor with them, it won't really matter. Yeah. So that is my call out, or my final word, sorry. Now we're going to move to call outs. That's what I'm thinking about.
All right, so my call out is Bookie Radley-Hiles, which I guess is a little bit contentious because of how good of a game he had last week. But again, just bear with me. Okay. I'll get there. Bookie Radley-Hiles, I'm calling you out because I want to see consistency. You had a pick six. You had a fumble recovery. This was the kind of play that Oklahoma, when they recruited you, when they signed you all the way out from sunny California, expected out of you when you signed with this team. You're a five-star athlete, one of the most hyped defensive players that has come into this team in a really long time, came out and proved, at least last game, that he can be a superstar on that defense under Alex Grinch. He was a guy that people came into the season questioning whether or not he was going to break out. And I want to see consistency. Do it again. Get another pick. Get another fumble. Make some more tackles. He only had one tackle outside of that pick six in the last game. I want to see more consistency out of him because I think he could be a superstar for this team. And right now, he's teetering on the edge of superstardom. He's just got to do it more consistently.
Yeah. My call is going to have to be Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon is a guy I've talked about a lot these last 2 weeks. He's a guy who said he's slimmed down, he's feeling a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot more agile. But at the end of the day, this running back style the running back kind of formation we have is by committee. And right now, I don't think Trey Sermon has led enough of a gap between the rest of the running back room that I think he can. I think he is the best, but it's not really showing. Ramondre Stephenson has too few carries, but eight more carries, but too fewer yards. He's a guy who seems like he can adopt Trey Sermon's role and be just fine. So I'm looking to Trey Sermon to widen the gap between the rest of the running back committee.
Listen, whenever we did earlier in the show picking offensive players that made an impact, we did this last week as well. One name that is yet to come up, Greg Calcaterra. Yeah. Where has the guy been? I mean, 2 receptions for 20 yards in 2 games, no receptions in the last game. There's a reason why the video that is going to be playing right now is a video of him stretching on the sidelines and running around post-game. He's been nowhere to be found, and it reminds me of last year because he was so slow to start last year as well. Really came on at the end of the year, had the great one-handed catch against Texas. Everyone was expecting a breakout year from him. and he's just been
Pressing
just,
snooze.
Yeah, he's just not even been on the field, you feel like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I say it now. Austin Stogner's bigger. Austin Stogner's a little faster.
Yeah.
If Grant Calcaterra doesn't start producing, he better watch out because these young guys are hungry. They've been hungry since they've gotten here.
Well, my call out is actually going to be Sooner Nation. Now, Christian touched on it earlier, but we've got a lot of Sooners from Cali. I think that it's so important, especially with young guys, for the fans to be loud, rowdy, to give them that confidence. And being so far away from home, it's really important that Sooner Nation shows up to the Rose Bowl tomorrow for the game. I think that goes just so far when it comes to the energy that the guys put out and the production that they're able to display. I think that it's really going to be a key for Sooners to do what they can, when they can, to be here tomorrow for the game.
I think it's a very real possibility that we see a lot more red than we see blue and yellow tomorrow.
That's what I like.
I think it's a real possibility that there's a lot of red in this stadium, and I hope to see it. It'll be
Right.
awesome.
I don't know. They're giving away one ticket for 4 extras, so we might, they might have this thing sold out. Who knows? I highly doubt it because it's, what, 3 losing seasons going on now? So, I mean,
Yeah.
Going on
on
4.
it's been ugly, but we'll see.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we all think OU will take this,
Yeah.
but we all differ
Obviously.
on how bad they're going to cream the Bruins.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think is going to be the score?
So my score prediction is 60-17 for multiple reasons. One, I mentioned it earlier in the show. UCLA is turnover prone. They're going to turn the ball over a lot. Alex Grinch is going to be hungry for that. This defense is going to be hungry for that, which is going to give this offense even more opportunities to score. 2, this offense has been firing on all cylinders. We've been talking about them all show. They've been firing on all cylinders for a reason. These guys are ready to play. They came into this game. They came into this season ready to go. Then now they're 3 games in, and they are going to be firing on all cylinders. And finally, UCLA is just not
Good.
not
They're not good.
doing well. Like if you're losing to San Diego State. I mean, Cincinnati is a decent football team this year, but San Diego State, come on, man. That's an in-state rival, and you're just going to let them come in and walk all over you? I mean, like, they've given up 40 points in 2 games to teams that are not anywhere near the caliber of team that Oklahoma is this year. Yeah. I think this is going to be a cakewalk, and I imagine that it'll be a similar situation where Jalen Hertz isn't playing the whole time.
Nah.
So it'll be those hungry young guys coming in and putting up points, even when the first and second, even the third string guys aren't in there anymore.
When we went to our meeting this past Monday, we found out that we were going to be doing score totals for the end of the season. And
Which got me very excited about this.
So I had to do a lot more research when I
By
was
the way,
looking for my
I'm in the
score
lead.
totals.
I'm in the lead.
I'm in second.
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely.
It's not too
I'm
far.
nipping at your
Guys.
heels.
Don't worry, I'm coming up. But if there's one thing this season has taught me, always bet on the over and more points than you can possibly expect.
Yes.
Smart bets only.
So I'm going to have to go with 63-7 as a final score. The Sooners are favored by 23.5 points,
That's
and
way
you
too
bet your derriere I put down money for the Sooners to cover, for sure. I'm sorry. I think they're going to get going from the get-go. I don't think it's going to be a really good game from start to finish. I mean, if you're looking to see a lot of guys should get good film, it'll be a good game in that aspect. But score-wise, if you're looking for a close game, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. 55-13, my final score prediction for this game. I think the Sooners will maybe struggle a little bit to start. I mean, the Rose Bowl is just it just captivates you, and so maybe they might get a little thrown off at the start, but once they settle into the game, UCLA is not going to stop the scoring. It's simple as that. Jalen Hertz is going to have a phenomenal game, entrench himself in that Heisman conversation for sure. He will be a Heisman frontrunner at least by the end of the weekend. And I felt pretty good about my predictions last week, so I'm going to throw another one in there. 2 guys from California in the secondary, Jordan Parker, Buki Radley-Hiles. One of them gets an interception tonight.
Wow.
All right,
in front of the home crowd.
I'll take care of Sam Brown.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, we've kind of been on the same brainwave because my score prediction is 56-14, so very
Mine's
very
to the
close.
left.
Uh-oh.
I swear I didn't copy him. And I mean, you guys said it. This UCLA is not doing that great. They're not having a good season. I don't expect for their offense to do really much of anything. I think that the key is when we start getting that second string, third string, when it starts getting hot and we're in the second half, that's when we're going to start seeing the Sooners kind of allow those touchdowns to start coming in for the Bruins. But I don't think there's going to be that many of them. I think that the Sooner offense I mean, is going to do what they're going to do. They are going to continue, as my final word was, to do what they've been doing, and that's scoring touchdowns. I mean, they have just, on all cylinders, have been firing rapidly. You know, you want to say Jalen and so-and-so is a duo, but it's more like a firing squad.
Yeah.
I mean, there are weapons everywhere. He is surrounded, and I just don't think the Bruins have the capability to take that heat.
No, they don't. And it's unfortunate because they've got a firing squad everywhere. But you talked about Calcaterra really not being as much of a presence as he had in years past. But I think it's just because we've got such a committee of guys Jalen Hurts can go to. Like
they don't need him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, at
Sorry.
the end of the day,
Hey, Grant, another guy from California. Maybe
Sorry,
he gets
Grant.
to score too.
Hey, well, I hope
We'll
so.
see.
I hope something for this soon.
We'll find out. That's all the time we have right now. But don't go anywhere. There's still one more segment left, and that's with the studio team. You're not going to want to miss it because they're going to be breaking down some national games.
Welcome back to Game Day U. We're going to switch it over and hit the books with Parker Thune.
What's up, Sooner fans? Parker Thune down here on field level at the Rose Bowl. This is Hit the Books. If you watch this segment with regularity, you know that generally I have a guest with me for this segment, and there are books behind me. Now, there are neither today. There are no books because we're out here in California, which is the tech capital of the universe, and everybody reads on a Kindle Fire out here. And there is no guest because, well, we've been trying to get in touch with people from UCLA's media department for over 6 weeks and haven't heard a thing from them. I think they must know they're about to get curb stomped tonight and would rather not talk about it. So since none of their people are here to give you the scouting report on the Bruins, I will. Here you go. UCLA on the season is averaging 239 yards of total offense, which is about a third of the Sooners' 709. So that should give you an idea of just how lopsided the game tonight is about to be. With that, we'll send you back to Brooke and the team in the studio, guys.
Let's take a look at the nation's top picks. Now we start off with Iowa and Iowa State in the latest edition of the Cy-Hawk series. Nathan Stanley's Hawkeyes are coming off of a shutout win over Rutgers. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy and the Cyclones had a bye last week after squeaking past Northern Iowa in their season opener. One of the Heartland's most fabled rivalries takes center stage in Ames, but who comes out on top? Okay, Baylor, let's start with you.
First of all, a quick compliment to Parker Thune for his decision on language. He had me rolling in that segment.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the word curb stomp.
That was pretty funny. So great job to him. But talking about Iowa and Iowa State, I'm taking Iowa in this game. I don't think it's an upset, and I think it's simple. It comes down to fundamentals. Defense. Iowa State allows almost 80 more yards per game with almost twice as many passing yards and twice as many rushing yards. This is easy. A game like this, a rivalry game, starts with X's and O's, and I trust Iowa to start that. They don't have big players on the receiving corps like Hakeem Butler last year. There's not a lot of explosiveness in Iowa State. It's an easy pick. There's not really a debate here. Unless you guys want to debate.
Caroline, what
to
do you
be
think?
quite honest with you, I mean, there are no ranked matchups this weekend. My picks are kind of boring, but anyway, I'm going with Iowa State, and that's just because, you know, I think they have a lot of momentum coming off of the game last weekend in overtime. I think they're the Big 12 underdog. I think if we're going to overlook any team, it is going to be Iowa State, and they have something to play for. That's all I got.
Okay, James.
You know, I get Iowa, I get what you're saying, but I just can't give it to them. I got to go with Iowa State in this matchup, and I'll tell you why. They're on a bye week, they're coming back, and they had that overtime thriller against another in-state rivalry. I think what's going to happen this game is they're going to be poised, and they're going to be ready to go to take on their big rival, because come on, you can't go into that overtime thriller, not get momentum, and be ready to go for that next snap, for that next game.
So I guess there was a debate.
I gotta say, I
There's
just can't
always
agree with
a
you.
debate with
Always a
James.
debate.
Let's get that clear.
Okay, guys, well, that was number one to pick, and let's go to number two. Arizona State makes the trip up to take on Sparty. This is the tail end of a home-and-home series between the two teams after the Sun Devils knocked off Michigan State in Tempe last season. Two of the most respected coaches in the business match up. Herm Edwards on one sideline and Mark D'Antonio on the other. Both teams looking to keep their perfect record intact. Guys, who do we like in this one?
So, Baylor, do you hate Michigan State as much as you hate Michigan?
No, I like Michigan State.
Okay.
They have a cool mascot.
Wasn't
Whenever
ready
I was
for
little
that
and
again.
I used to play NCAA, I always picked. You remember the mascot
Oh,
games?
for sure.
Oh, I would always get him run around with that Spartan.
With
you know what I mean?
Sparty.
Mascot games were the best. No, I like Michigan State. And while both teams are undefeated, it's an easy pick for me, just like the first game. The Spartans' offense has been clicking of late, and senior quarterback Brian Lewerke, he's a hard name. Brian Lewerke is playing as a quietly stellar, albeit unsexy season. He's producing a lot of results, and he's a great leader. And I expect nothing different to come out of Michigan State. And I want I want mascot game back. Now I'm on that roll. Go ahead. Go ahead before I start crying.
It may be, but that's a different
I'm getting
discussion.
nostalgic.
You know, I really thought that you would hop on the whole state of Michigan hate train, but I'm
No.
surprised that you didn't. But contrary to you, I am going to go with Arizona State for this game. Much like Michigan, which you have claimed, Michigan State's success is just an illusion. And I'm just tired of that whole state winning. So I'm going with Arizona State.
Oh, Caroline, I gotta be so real with you. You sided with me if Iowa State. I was excited. Maybe we had the same picks. And
Nothing
then
gold can
you
stay, my friend.
did
Nothing
that.
gold can stay.
No way. Michigan State's got this game. Guys, come on. They're averaging 40 points a game. They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. And let's see. Arizona State struggled against Sacramento State. And they're going to go and play Sparty and beat them? No way. I don't think so. Michigan State all the way for this one.
So with all the love of Michigan State, what do you think? Do you think Michigan State can take on Michigan?
As I said earlier, I think that's a possible defeat. I think that'll be a great game. I like Michigan State in the game from what I've seen so far.
Okay. Well, let's go on to our final game of note today. A clash of SEC contenders down in the Bluegrass State as Florida visits Kentucky. Felipe Franks had a career day last week for the Gators and a win over Tennessee Martin. But as conference play kicks off, he surely won't find things as easy against the stout Wildcats defense. Last year, Kentucky toppled UF for the first time since 1986. Can they make it 2 in a row with another upset victory? Baylor.
Okay. Let's pump the brakes on this career day.
I know. Tennessee
against
Martin.
UT Martin.
Woo.
UT Martin. Look. Sell your Felipe Franks talk. The guy's no good.
Thank you.
The guy is barely a starting collegiate quarterback. I expect to see him in a transfer portal by the end of this season. The guy isn't going to continue his right. I mean, from what we've seen so far, there's no hope for Felipe Franks. I don't care if he balled out against UT Martin. Give me a break on that. And with that, I am picking. I'm picking Kentucky to win this game. I think that they're one of those teams that's just on the fringe of the top 25, and they're upset bait. And I also think Florida isn't very good to begin with.
Okay. Caroline?
I'm pretty much the same as Baylor said. I'm not going to be repetitive here. Felipe Franks is unreliable, and Kentucky went 10-3 last year. You know, they're one of those teams that always comes in with the upset, so I expect them to do the same tonight.
Oh, man.
And here we go.
I got my back against the wall, but I'm sticking with what I said. Florida in this game on the road, playing through the noise, proving that they are a team to be messed with. I'm not believing in Franks being done here. I think this is going to be a game to change the media mindset. And guys, Florida on top this game for sure.
Okay, well, let's move on to the upset picks now, guys. What do you have going on this week that you're wanting to talk about?
So I'm talking about the Hawaii and Washington game. You're probably wondering why I didn't talk about Cole McDonald when I talked about him earlier, and it's so I could talk about him now. The Hawaii quarterback is a gunslinger. He takes risks, trusts his wide receivers, and I trust him against Jacob Eason, and I see a lot of connections going to JoJo. I think they'll outscore him.
Okay, Caroline?
I've got BYU, and honestly, you know, I understand. A win over Tennessee at this point does not mean much, but for BYU it does. And so just think about the momentum that the team has right now going into this week. I mean, they're set up to have one of those, once again, it's kind of like UCF. They could win all their games. It's not going to matter much. But I see them coming out with the upset tonight.
Okay, James?
I got to say, I got to go with Stanford upsetting UCF. And I'll tell you why. They had a blowout defeat against USC, and no one wants to lose against UCF if they're in the Power 5. And I think coming off a blowout win like that, they also don't want to be thrown in the category of Tennessee, who lost to Georgia State, then BYU. I think Stanford's going to be sitting here backs against the wall going, guys, we don't want to be a joke. Let's go out there and just win this football game.
Okay.
I can agree with you on that.
So,
Finally.
So Washington lost, I forgot to say this, but Washington lost to Cal with Chase Garbers throwing for 111 yards with a 29.8 QBR. They're going to lose this weekend to Hawaii.
I don't know. I think
we should just
yeah.
I think we should end with that, considering I agree with you, and that's just a move now.
Wow.
Okay, we'll end that there. How about some quick thoughts, since we are at the University of Oklahoma right now? Quick thoughts on the OU-UCLA game that's today.
We will utterly eviscerate them.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for all of these words. Curb
Yes.
stomp, whatever you just said. You know, I think it's a cool game in the fact that we're playing at the Rose Bowl, but, you know, I feel like we've probably brought too much hype to this game. Coach Grinch talked a lot about the offense that UCLA has, and considering our defense has struggled in the past, I do see maybe some mishaps finally happening, because I feel like UCLA will take advantage of that. But, I mean, come on, guys. OU's going to come out with the win, for sure.
Okay, James.
I got to say, I finally think we all agree on something. OU gets a blowout win. It's not even close. Don't even contest it. That's happening. Jalen Hertz adds some more great plays to his Heisman resume. And then finally, here's my take. UCLA at the Rose Bowl will have less fans than OU will. That's right. I think Sooner Nation's going to travel out there and way outnumber the Bruins fans.
You know they gave out free tickets for the game.
Free
UCLA,
tickets.
if you are a season ticket holder and you went to the game last Saturday, they gave out 4 tickets to each season ticket holder. Talk about wanting to upset OU.
I got one more thing to say.
Okay, quickly.
We will utterly eviscerate them.
Okay.
Curb stomp.
Amazing.
That's it.
Curb stomp, utterly eviscerate. This has been Game Day U here at the University of Oklahoma. Have a great game day. We've enjoyed talking all things college football on the national level. We'll see you back here on Saturday.